Hello friends, I'm Brian, and this is Gizmo Board Games. Today, I am doing a review of The Magnificent from Aporta Games, designed by Elif Zvinston and Christian Ostby. Hopefully I got those at least close enough to write. In The Magnificent, you are running a circus, and that means you need to set up tents, you need campground areas for people to stay in and for your workers. You need to hire performers to perform, which is going to be key to scoring a bunch of points. And that's all done in just 3 simple actions. And I'll kind of get into a little bit of an overview right now of how it plays. So The Magnificent is a dice drafting game where you and your opponents take turns drafting of 4 colored dice. You're going to have a purple, a green, and orange die, and then a clear kind of wild dice. And you're going to put them onto action cards. Everybody's going to start with 4 action cards. And every time you draft a dice, you're going to pick one of those action cards to utilize the die of. Those action cards are going to give you different abilities depending on what they are. So some of them might give you like a +2 to a purple die. So you're going to want to place a purple die there so that way it boosts it by 2, because the dice values matter when you go to take your actions. Because the higher the dice value, the better the action or more powerful the action is you're going to be able to take with it. Not only that, each subsequent die of the same color is going to add to all the previous ones on your player boards. So that's also going to help increase those values as well. And again, the one clear one can act as any of the colors that you have already, or if it's the first one you take, any of the 3 colors to begin with. And that's pretty much it of your action. Select die, choose one of your 4 action cards to take the die and gain any bonus from that placement. And then you're going to take one of those 3 actions in that color. So what are the 3 actions? Well, the first action is to travel. There's 3 travel boards. They're little circles. You're going to drive your little, I think it represents a train going around from town to town, around on that colored board. And as you do that, you're going to be able to land on different tents. Those tents are then going to come back to you if you finish your travel action on one, and you're probably going to want to, but not necessarily. And you're going to cover up your tent spaces. You start with 1 tent automatically. You can get up to 5. And you're going to need those tents because in order to put on performances, you need to have tents. So you pick one of those 4 other slots and place your newly acquired tent onto it and acquire whatever it is you just covered with that newly acquired tent. With that, you're also going to be able to pick up another performer poster, or a performer if you want to look at it that way. And they come in the 3 colors as well, purple, green, and orange. And I think they have 2 different styles. So there's 6 different performers you can collect in the game. And that could matter for in-game scoring based on your cards again. So when you collect a tent, you're going to also collect a performer to basically add to that tent or to anywhere on your board you have available. You don't have to add it directly to the same tent you just picked up. And that's how you get tents and performers for the most part as you travel around, going to different cities and finding new performers and tents. In addition to that, you're also going to pick up some gems along the way for each position you cross over. So therefore, the more movement you do around the travel boards, you're going to collect more gems. And those gems are important because you can use them as a requirement on certain performers in certain tents to even be able to perform during a performance with that tent and or performer. In addition to that, you're also going to be able to use them at any time to increase that colored die by 2. So that's going to help you get those bigger and better actions. The second action you can do is build. And with the build action, you're going to be adding campgrounds to your player board. And this is a little mini polyomino game. The campgrounds come in 2 styles for each of the 3 colors, a small one and a large one. So there are 6 different campgrounds you can build, and they're going to take up different space, and they each have their own shape with them as well. And you're going to put them on your player board, and they're going to have to be adjacent to each other as you place them down. And when you cover up various bonuses on your board, you're going to get that bonus as well. And you're going to need these campgrounds, again, to meet certain performers' requirements. Certain performers will only perform in, say, maybe 1 large and 1 purple campground area. Or some of them might want a large orange campground and a small green campground. And you're going to need to have acquired those into your player board, into your camping area, those various campgrounds, in order to perform with those performers. So it's just another thing to take care of. And again, you can utilize the dice to get more camps and bigger ones with the higher summations of those dice. And again, the color matters for this because you're going to have to take the campgrounds that match the color die you just played. But you can modify it with trainer tokens. There are trainer tokens you can collect along the way, and those help you modify various actions. You're going to get your own trainer token at the beginning of the game and one at the end of every round for a total of 3. And in addition to that, you can pick up your trainers along the way that can go on those tokens, either your personal tokens or on the board there are certain ones, such as the one that allows you to change the color of one campground when you play the build action. There's one that allows you to do a certain thing when you travel, and there's one for when you do the final action, which is the perform action. And with the perform action, you're going to perform 1, 2, 3, 4, or even potentially all 5 of your acquired performances and your tents. And this is going to be your key way to A, earn money, and B, earn points. Because different performers are worth different values of points and or money. As they're more famous, more and more people are going to come see them, spending more money and getting more accolade for you. And that's the key to the game, is collecting all these things to enable you to put on more and more performances to score more and more points and earn more and more money. Because at the end of every round, for every die that you take, you're going to have to pay for it with cash earned or lose points, depending on which round it is. In round, for every 1 coin you can't pay, you're going to lose 1 point. In the second round, you're going to lose 2 points. And in the final round, you'll lose 3 points for every coin you can't pay for the actions you take. So yes, you want to take higher actions, so acquire higher dice, but the value of your most expensive color of dice is how much you're going to pay. So if I took, say, a 6 purple and a 5 purple during the round and a 4 orange and maybe a 1 green, I'm going to ignore the green and the orange because my highest valued dice accumulated during that round were my 2 purple dice, the 6 and the 5. I'm going to have to pay 11 coins at the end of the round for those dice. And you're going to have to pay for every pip on any wild dice you took. So if I took, say, that 6 and 5 purple, and I took a 2 of the clear die and made that purple, or I made it green, or I made it, it doesn't even matter what color I made it during the round, I'm still going to have to pay 2 additional coins for having taken that die as well. So it's a lot to manage. And at the end of every round, you're going to basically, in order of whoever performed the most performances, got higher up on the performance track with their die value. The higher up on the track you get, the more performances you're going to be able to perform at that action. So whoever went the highest up in the performance gets first pick for the next round of another master card or play card, basically, and trainer tile that they're going to add to their board. And at the end of every round, in addition to paying for those dice you took, you're going to take one of your cards and score whatever it is on the bottom half of that card by how well you did that. So you're paying attention to those activities on the bottom half of your card as well, because that's going to be a crux to or key to scoring a bunch of points as well. So let's say I have a master card at the bottom half that allows me to score for performers that were the same performer. So maybe I have 3 of one type of purple performer. I would score, say, let's 3 or 4 points for each of those. I would score 9 or 12 or whatever it is. I don't remember off the top of my head. Points at that time. And then that card would go away because I've drafted a new card. And you can use the new card too. Maybe I just draft that card for the round points and then I immediately discard it and get those points. But you're always going to have 4 cards, but at the end of the round, you're going to take a 5th one, and then from those 5, choose 1 to score. And you're going to do that for 3 rounds. So you're only going to get 12 total turns in this game, which means you got to make everything count. Every little bonus action you take, every dice value you take. But remember, there's only so many colors and so many dice and so many rolls in the pool each round to take between all your players. So it really is this thinky, crunchy game. And at the end of the game, you're going to score for leftover money. You're going to score for all your trainer cards at that point, but you're only going to score one of them for the highest value. Every other one, you're going to score half its value. So you want to keep that in mind as well. And that's basically the gist of the Magnificent. It's a dice drafting game. You're only getting 12 actions in that game. So you're really managing those actions, but there's only 3 things to do, so it's not like it's overwhelming. And you're using 2 of those 3 things to build to the 3rd thing. You need to travel to get your performers and tents to perform. You need to build campgrounds to count towards those performances, and then you're going to perform as often as you can in that game. Let me get into my Gizmo final thoughts. Starting off with what is good about the Magnificent. Well, I like that it is simple in its complexity. Again, 3 actions, 12 turns in the game, and then you're done. You're going to score at the end of 1, 2, and 3 rounds of 4 actions. So you can kind of learn after the first round what's going on. So it's kind of a quick learning curve there. But there's just so much to take into account with every action, trying to get the most from each action and how you're going to be able to manipulate those dice to get what you need and how you need them, and then hope that your opponent doesn't take the one you're eyeballing for your next turn. What else do I like? I just like the dice pool. 3 colors, 1 wild die, and they're all counting for and against you every round. I just like dice drafting in general. It's a fun mechanism. I don't like dice randomness. I don't like do a thing and then roll to see how it did. I like roll and then see what you can do with that. So for me, I just like that shared dice pool where everybody's got the same good and bad rolls together. I mentioned this before, but the tight action choices, really managing every action to try to get the most out of it. If I take this build action, I can get, 2 small buildings, but I can turn one of them to a different color because I need, 1 purple one and 1 orange one to get these 2 performances. So I'm going to have to use my trainer on that change color of one of them. And then where am I putting them on my board? Do I want to put them where I can get more coins because I've taken some expensive dice? Do I want to put them where I can get some points straight up? Do I want to put them where I get another trainer token because I just used one, so now I want another trainer token in my pool so I can use it for another action later, etc., etc. Just a lot of things to manage. Everything's a thinkingness, and we'll touch on that, I think, in a little bit when I get to my what could improve. What else is good about it? I think it plays pretty quick, especially if you've played it a few times. You have an idea of what you're going to do. I've played it with some new people, and it did take a little bit of time. There can be some analysis paralysis. But for the most part, because there's only 3 things to do and only 12 times you're doing things in all, it can move pretty quick, especially once you know what you're doing. And finally, because of that, it's got a pretty small rule book. So here's the rule book. It is like 5 pages of rules. It's got a lot of pictures and examples. Very easy, straightforward to follow. You can get right into the game if you're new to it. Pretty simple rule book. So those are the things I think are good about the Magnificent. What do I think could improve in the Magnificent? Well, this one takes a hit from a lot of people. Personally, it doesn't bother me, but some people don't like the art style. It is very dark with the sharp colors of the purple, green, and orange, as you can see on the box over my shoulder. That is the art style of the game. That's basically how everything looks. So if that's not for you, then maybe the art in this game isn't for you, but I can get past the art. I like it anyway, but I can get past it because it's an enjoyable game. Another thing that can improve, there is a pretty good stack of cards with the performers and with your master cards that you're using in the game. Especially on a lower player count, you're just going to have a bunch of leftover cards at the end of the game. And that could hinder you if you're building towards an early strategy and then there's nothing that helps you follow up on that strategy later coming out. So your strategy can be kind of dictated by what becomes available. And of course, the die roll is always going to be random, but everybody's got to deal with that. So it hurts a little bit, the randomness, but not much. And you can definitely adjust fire as needed. But that is something that I don't know how it would improve because of the nature of the game. Just something to keep in mind that sometimes you won't see cards that would be more helpful to you than to your opponent. Another improve, and this is a me specific thing or anybody else who plays solo. The in the box solo version is not the greatest. Basically, you play the game and see how you can score, and it says if you score 200, you win. And I've never scored 200 in this game ever. So first of all, I would adjust that win number way down, and B, I'm not the hugest fan of beat your own score styles anyway, and You're just kind of out there playing the game by yourself. So me and Allie at the Family Meeple have separately started working on our own Automa decks to help improve that and just get a feel of a 2-player game at least. So, yep, the in-the-box solo mode definitely could use improvement. And finally, as I mentioned before, this game can be very analysis paralysis prone because, again, you've only got so many actions, so you really got to make the most of them and think through every little thing to try to set yourself up. And then maybe someone right before you takes that die you really needed for your turn, your next turn, to meet that strategy, and now you've got to adjust fire and rethink everything through as that die is no longer available. So that can slow down the game quite a bit, just being very analysis paralysis prone. But that's about it for the improvements from my point of view. So let's get into, is it easy to play? Yes, because there's only 3 actions, but also it's not for beginner gamers. You have to have some experience with Euro gamers, some experience with planning turns out in order, because that really does matter. Like I said, the build and travel actions are going to set up your perform action. So you need to really think about, how am I going to get what I need so that way I can perform at maximum? Because again, 12 actions. So you really got to make every single one of them count, every bonus action count, every placement count to get the best out of the game. Otherwise, you could really fall behind against someone who knows what they're doing. So easy to play because there's 3 actions and it's a simple game, yes, but very, very complex in that simplicity, which I mentioned as something I personally like back in my what makes it good comments. More of it. Is there plenty in the box? Do I want to play it more? Absolutely. Like I mentioned kind of in one of the improves, there's a good deck of those master cards that are going to give you your action bonuses and your end of round and in the game scoring objectives that you're playing for. There's a bunch of trainer tiles that you're shuffling through and taking out. There's various tents and performance cards that you're able to, you might not see the same ones every game. And for me, I just like the play style. The dice rolls add randomness to every round, every turn. So I don't think this one gets old quickly, and there's an expansion that I don't even have that adds even more to it. I would love to get my hands on that one as well. So I think for me, there's plenty in the box to keep you occupied for quite a while. But again, with 3 actions and them, it could, for some people, grow old pretty quickly, because you're doing a lot of the same thing over and over again, but you're doing it with different capabilities, I guess is one way to put it. So I think there's enough in the box to keep me occupied. And finally, what do I think of originality? It's relatively original. I don't remember when it came out. I'm going to have to look it up and put it up there, or if it matters. But it's doing Euro things. Again, dice drafting, that's been done before. You got Coimbra, Lorenzo, Il Magnifico off the top of my head. I, again, don't know which came first, the Magnificent or those two. But there are similar dice drafting games out there where you're using dice to get cards and or resources to do things. So from a dice drafting standpoint, no, not original, but I think it mixes it up enough to keep me engaged more than those 2 games I listed. Is it similar feel of a game? The White Castle just came out with a similar feel to this one. Again, I know for sure this one came first because White Castle is a very new game. But if you want a similar feel with that thinky tight action dice draftingness, I think White Castle also only has 12 turns in that game. So that one gives a similar feel to this one, but this one came first for that one. The theme, there's some other, circus games out there. This one, it's a circus game. I don't know that it feels like a circus game when you're playing it. I guess it does as much as it can, but other circus games feel more circusy. I haven't played too many circus games, so I can't really comment on those, but I know there are other circus games out there for the theme. And of course, there are other polyomino games out there too. Isle of Cats is one of my favorites. This one's way heavier than Isle of Cats. So take that in mind. But, you know, plenty of polyomino games out there as well. Barron Park, I think, is a polyomino game. New York Zoo, etc. So there are games that this one has similar themes and feels to, but putting it all together as one package, I really like this game better than all those games I mentioned in those realms as well. But if you're not quite into one as heavy, or you don't like the colors or the theme of this one, check out those ones I just talked about too, to meet some of those potential likenesses. And that's my Gizmo thoughts of The Magnificent. I do give this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my favorite games. It's been on my top 50 lists, I think, for the last few years. I really do enjoy pulling this one out, playing it solo and with people. So that's what I have for this video. If you liked this video or this review, give me a thumbs up. Comment below what you think of this game, if you've played it, or other similar games I might have forgotten off the top of my head that are similar to this one that I might want to check out. And of course, subscribe below. That way you can come back and catch some more of my reviews, lists, general discussions, whatever, about board gaming and board gaming adjacent things. I will see you in the next video.